Today we're going to talk about chapter 12, which is entitled Mausoleums. This isn't a song per se, it's another one of those like segue interlude sort of tracks, where it's basically just a poem with some music or sound effects or whatever you want to classify it as in the background. And this was easy to record. It didn't really take very long at all. Um, I stacked like four takes of like the primary riff, um, mainly because I suck as a guitarist. like, uh, I'm I've just never been good at playing arpeggios, even like simple ones. I just suck at it. Um, I hate doing arpeggios. I mean, I like arpeggios. I just can't play them very well. Um, yeah. So like stack like four parts, like kind of all just weaves together, and you know doesn't sound like maybe I'm messing up when I am, sort of thing. But then stacking, different like effects chains on guitar, like hard pan left and different things on the right channel, and just lots of layers, and like couple of, I think there was like two bass guitar parts in there. It was like one's kind of like fading in, this like whooshing just fading in, and the other one doing something different. I can't remember exactly. um, and yeah, like doing weird effects on the vocals, so like doubled the channel or whatever, and like copied the vocals and turned it backwards, like reversed the like wave file, so the whole thing's just sounds like gibberish, like going backwards, because hey, I thought it sounded cool, you know, with like weird effect delays or whatever on that, and probably I think I put some phaser on there somewhere, like on the vocals, just to make it sound weird. Um, so like Mausoleums is literally, literal context, the protagonist continuing his journey after crossing his version of the Rubicon River. At some point, he, like in the dead of night, comes to a cemetery. He basically camps there and starts just having these questions or recollections, or whatever, just really just reflecting on his own mortality, and just also reflecting on the mortality of, well, the people buried in the cemetery. Um, Realizing that one day he is going to die, and what will be said of his life. It's simple as that. It's just a reflection on death. Um, and I guess like since my mentor was, still battling cancer when I wrote these lyrics, I mean that was clearly in mind. And at that point, I can't remember if she had already like settled that she was gonna die or not. But if she had come to that conclusion, it was probably like literally within a couple of weeks of my writing this, like after writing this. Um, so, I mean, I guess, you know, that was in mind. But what what I talked about here, what is it? Hebrews is it chapter 9, I think. Um, yeah, I'm a terrible Bible scholar, aren't I? Okay, so the book of Hebrews, the writer, which a lot of people assume was the Apostle Paul, um, basically wrote like a history lesson of all these Old Testament uh, characters of great faith, and he like goes through just a long list of these heroes, and you know, by faith X, by faith Y, sort of thing. But like the end of I want to say it's chapter 9. Um, it says the darndest thing. It basically says that all of these people walked in faith, and yet they never saw what they were looking for come to pass. They never saw it in this life, which it's a hard message as a Christian, especially in our society and in current church worlds, to actually read that. Um, if you actually pay attention, it says that. Um, and back like right before I wrote this poem or whatever you want to call it, like I sort of discovered that. Like it kind of hit me hard. Is like, I mean, this kind of goes against a lot of what we talk about from the pulpit of, this like reward for faith, and that you're going to see these things, and then you read about these Old Testament men and women of faith, and they didn't see it. And it also says that, this world wasn't worthy of them. Um, and so, I mean, it's troubling and comforting simultaneously, um, to realize that you may never see what it is that you're looking for. Like you too, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, sort of thing. And that's just part of life, I guess. So it says, I never plan to converse with the deceased, but I hear their voices on epitaphs and monikers carved. It was by faith that Abel brought a more acceptable gift. Going back to Hebrews, Noah a boat. Abraham obeyed when called from home, and Sarah to conceive. All who died still believing what God had promised, foreigners and nomads on this earth. And okay, like the second stanza that I have here um, has a line that says, "What secret would they tell for being recorded is worthy of the annals of kings?" Which, like, if you look at back in Old Testament literature, and like uh, maybe it's the Book of Judges. I know there's like a few different places where it um, basically writes in there, like if you want, I mean, this is my kind of summary of what it says in there, but there's a few different times when the Old Testament writers write like, oh, if you want to know like more about this story, or what happened, just refer to the book of the Annals of Kings, which yeah, that book doesn't exist anymore. Somehow didn't make it into the final cut of the Bible. I guess it's just lost to time or whatever. And that, to me, is what's kind of interesting, um, and what I wanted to say, by including that like reference in there is that like it's forgotten. Like that's the irony of it is like, oh, it's supposed to be written down in like some big book, um, but that book doesn't exist anymore. You know, and right after that, it mentions a line about Guilford's oldest cemetery. So literally in this world, he's in some region, area, whatever that would be called Guilford. In reality, the personal meaning is I live in Guilford County in North Carolina. And so the oldest cemetery in Guilford County actually isn't in Guilford County at all. It's right over the line, like the county line, like half a mile to a mile past into Rockingham County, which is located north of Guilford. And it's not very far from where I live at all. And so, like, the personal story with that is when I was a kid, like in elementary school for a few years, every summer, like my elementary school helped put on a summer camp for like a week at this it's a state park now, but like back then it was like called the conference center or whatever, and it's I mean basically a park back then, with like a lake and cabins and stuff like that. But anyway, like I would go to this camp, and a couple of times, the like counselors or whatever that ran this camp took us to this cemetery that was only like half a mile away down the street from this park. And this, it's a family cemetery that's tucked away like at this like T intersection. And it's, I don't know, like 100 yards in the woods. Just there's nothing but woods through there, but like you come upon and there's just these like headstones and stuff just sitting there. It's not very big. I mean, it's like the size of, I don't know, like my bedroom or something. But there's like a, I don't know, dozen maybe, grave markers in this cemetery, and like the oldest one was like, I think it was 1772 or 1773. So it was like right before the Revolutionary War, and like all the rest of the markers are after the Revolutionary War. But I remember as a kid, they gave us like newsprint and charcoal or whatever, and we like made, you know, stuck the newsprint on the graves, and like copied the grave writings or whatever. And so that it's kind of like a shout out like to the 336, I guess, to my home area. And just, I don't know, there's nothing really too profound about that, but just, I don't know, like it's something that's always kind of stuck with me, and just kind of the irony, because like back then, there was no Rockingham County. It was all like part of Guilford County. But like after the Revolutionary War, they redid the lines or whatever and made Rockingham County into what it is. And so, like, technically, it is like the oldest cemetery in the county, but it's not in the county at all. But it's just, I use a lot of language in this poem of like different kind of burial sites, ossuaries, and necropolis and vaults, and just I wanted to fill it with um, language of like different kinds of graves and tombs and stuff like that. And there's the like biblical quotation of our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, we are cut off, and then um, well done, my good and faithful servant, sort of thing. And so the whole idea here is that he's in this cemetery, but like recognizing, he wants to live a life well lived. He wants his life to count for something and have eternal significance. To be told by God that like his life mattered. Um, but it ends by saying, "But tonight I'm just passing through in search of a home to rest my bones." So like playing on, the to rest my bones, is such a weird English phrase, because it has, like this subtle connotation of death, but we just kind of don't take it that way, but it does, Um, and just realizing that it isn't his time yet, of course, but just, yeah, just the self reflection of like death, knowing that like one day it will come. It's not his time yet. He's got plenty of life yet to live. He's still young and everything, but um, just asking the simple question of, is my life going to be something worth talking about one day? And I mean, I think that's a question that we all ask ourselves from time to time. It doesn't have to, be representative of any particular time in our lives. This song definitely wasn't about any particular moment, but just the general question of like, does my life matter or not? And coming to the conclusion that like it must, like it has to, because that ultimately, is, I mean, like faith in Jesus, faith in an afterlife, that sort of thing, faith that he is the Son of God. I mean, that is, to me, you know, the primary side of the coin, so to speak, but like the other side being of, maybe it's egoism to a degree, but just the idea of like, is my life going to count for something? Like, can I make my family proud? Can I make my friends proud? But more importantly, can I make my God proud of, the way that I choose to live my life? And, is my faith going to mean something?
If the righteous only preach